even sure how to do that. It's now streaming live on YouTube.
There
And
will be a link if you
basically,
go to the website.
I think they can text us in a question or something, but
I can do that for you. Yes.
yeah. Would you let us know if there's something we should do, or?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you. Yeah, we're a bunch of old goats here that aren't really. At least I'll just speak for myself. I should not speak for others. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll start the meeting. We just jump right in. We don't do any other, we don't do the pledge. We don't have a flag here anyway. But we had some minutes that Dennis sent out from our last meeting, and I made a note back to him that he had indicated that, and I don't know if everybody's had a chance to review them. The one thing he said was in reference to the Gilman Waite project house, the proponent, Scott Dale, said, yes, close it out. There's like a few $100s, but he didn't specifically mention that we had voted. So I mentioned that we did vote, so it'll be in the record. The other comment was that in the vote was made to talk about the warrant, but that was the vendor warrant, to give me the authority as the chairman of the committee to sign the vendor warrant for invoices to proceed them in a timely fashion. And the way they do that now, they have electronic signatures and things like that. And then as long as it's not, you know, a surprise or anything like that, and we talk about these things all the time, then that's the way to facilitate not having to wait for a monthly meeting to pay a bill. So those were the two things that I wanted to clarify in the minutes. Did anybody else have any other comments or anything they wanted to talk about the minutes from last month?
I don't have anything.
All right, I'll make those corrections and
Okay, so if we could, if nobody has any other comments on the minutes that we shared, if somebody wanted to make a motion to accept with those two changes,
I'll make a motion, we accept with those two changes.
very good.
I'll
And
second it.
seconded by Joy.
By Joy.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or wave your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so that's unanimous. And so then going forward, in terms of the finances, we did get an invoice for the Dwelly clearing. That's $4,500 to clear that 3 acres or thereabouts. And once again, it was a little slow because my wife had the printer in Maine, so it took me a week to get the thing in. Meanwhile, they sent another invoice, but now we've got it with Holly. Holly has an electronic signature thing, and so it's been approved. They should have, if the check didn't go out last week, it's certainly going out this week. So Carrie, you can let them know. I know they're going to be doing some more work up there. They've already done a lot. They've done a lot of the invasive work as well. We expect to see a bill from that. Other than that, there was no financial activity other than that Stone Bridge assessment thing that we had already spoken about, that was $1,000 to work on the Stone Bridge project. That bill got paid as well. So that's our financial update. Any questions or any comments?
John, just a point of clarification, that 4,500 was for the clearing of the invasive species?
It's the clearing of the field, cutting of the trees, the logging, Anderson logging.
Oh, okay. It had nothing to do with the most recent.
Right. So we
Okay.
will be getting a bill for the cleaning out of the invasive plants.
Okay.
So that's a two-pronged project that includes clearing agricultural land. It was a former field and it's agricultural soils, and they're going to create the pollinator garden there. In addition to that project, the second part of it is the getting rid of the invasives.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Which, yes. Okay. We're getting some editorial comment from Braddock. You're probably not hearing that the state is good about spreading invasives on their own land, but you know, that's neither here nor there, but let it be stated. And it's true, like with the Japanese knotweed
Knotweed.
there and other things. But anyway, the invasives are tough. I have a lot of problems here too with buckthorn and all that other rigmarole. So any other discussion on the financial concerns or questions?
No,
Okay. Okay, so the primary emphasis of our meeting tonight, it was to hear more about the proposed project at the Baldwinville Elementary School. As we discussed last month, Matthew Zahler and I forget the name, is it
MPZ Development is my company.
MZ Development is looking to purchase that property from the town with the intention of developing it into and expanding through creation of new affordable housing. So Matthew's prepared to give us an overview and presentation, and I think we should probably just let him give his thing, and then maybe you'll have some time for us to ask some questions at the end.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay,
So-
and I'm gonna see. I don't know. I'm gonna try to turn my volume up a little bit, and make sure I can hear good. And with
Okay, yeah.
that, we'll ask Sean to share the screen with you, so you can take over. Is that how it works?
I think I can
You should
share
be all
my
set
screen.
now.
Yeah, looks
Okay.
like it. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Members of the board, I formally want to thank you for having me here tonight to discuss what I think is a great opportunity for the community, for Templeton and the Baldwinville neighborhood as it relates to the school building there. I've got a presentation I'm going to show you guys to kind of give you a sense of what I propose for the project. But before I get into that, you know, I'm really excited to be here tonight. You know, one of the best parts of this is the process and getting to know the folks in the community that know Templeton better than I could ever know it, because you live there and you spend every day in the community. So you know what you need and want in your community. I'm an outsider, but I'm coming in to learn and hopefully be a part of your community, you know, as I approach this project. And then this is a long-term capital investment for me. So it's not like I just build the project and then I sell it. I'm going to be in the community for the foreseeable future, because that's the way these projects work. You know, the investments that I make and then that are made on behalf of the community and the Commonwealth, for that matter, are long-standing investments. So we can get into the details of that in a little bit, but I really do appreciate this opportunity and thank you for making the time. I also,
If I could just interject for just a second for everybody, because I just did this. If you want to, you know, you can put it on speaker view to blow Matthew up to see him bigger. I don't know if everybody knows that. You know, just if anybody has any Zoom functionality questions to see the best, and then
yeah, and I'll try and watch all of you for questions. You know, if you have one, I'll stop, or I can show you the presentation and then we can, you know, do them at the end, whatever works best for everybody. I want this to be a conversation, not a, you know, this is what I'm presenting to you. That's not how this works at all. This proposal was simply that. It was the beginning of a larger conversation to understand, you know, what you all want to see in your community. And I had to present something. What I presented, I do think would make a great project, but that's why we're embarking on a process now to see, you know, what works for the community. So with that, I will share this presentation that I have. Let's see. Okay, can everybody see that?
yes.
Okay, and I'm looking at the presentation while I'm talking to you. So hopefully it's not because I don't want to look at you all. I'm trying to focus on the content here. So to start, here's an image of the school from a historic postcard that I found on the internet when the windows were full height and they touched the ceilings of the classrooms where there's, you know, tin ceilings in a lot of those classrooms. They've since been replaced with drop ceilings, but it's a beautiful building, and it's in really great shape because, you know, it just came out of service back in 2019. So now is the right time to have this conversation, you know, to talk about the transformation of the site and the building itself. So by way of background, I want to give you guys a little bit about me and my team. So I've been in the development business now for well over 10 years. You know, actually, I've been in architecture and engineering and the like for the better part of 20 years. So I left a large real estate developer located in Boston called Trinity Financial about 3 years ago to start my own company. And since then, I've been focused on creating mixed income and affordable housing across the Commonwealth. And I do it at the scale that I presented. So anywhere from 5 to, you know, 100 units is probably the biggest project I would do. But this project that I'm going to present this evening to you is right in my sweet spot, around 50 units. And so, and my job as the developer is to kind of aggregate all of the different parties to present a vision to you all for redevelopment of the site. And so to help me do that, I have Icon Architecture, which is an architecture firm out of Boston. They do stuff all over New England. They're very steeped in historic preservation. They're doing some things in Fitchburg. They've done stuff in Worcester. They're all over the Commonwealth, and they have a deep bench of historic preservation projects. And I'm going to show you the principal that will be working with me on this one. Epsilon Associates is a historic preservation consultant, and they will help me secure the tax credits to redevelop the building. And I'll be looking for state and federal historic tax credits to help you know, subsidize the redevelopment cost. You can basically raise approximately, you know, 40% of the total costs through selling what is a historic tax credit. And you get a federal credit and you get a state credit. And so Epsilon will help me kind of navigate the National Park Service and the Massachusetts Historical Commission, and we'll interface directly with them, and they'll work to put together the applications that we need to do to get the credits. And then Trinity Management is actually the company that I worked for. It's the management arm, and they do a really great job of managing mixed income communities across New England and into New York. And Trinity themselves has 7,000 units, and then they privately manage another 3. So they're a big management company. And what happens with these types of redevelopments is the property manager will be someone who's local to Templeton, most likely, and we'll hire them as a project expense as part of the operating costs of the development. And, you know, they'll work as kind of a liaison between the residents that live at the Baldwinville School and the associated building I'm going to propose, and then the community at large. So that's Trinity's job in this overall big picture. And then Keith Construction is a contractor that I've worked with. They know a lot about historic preservation. They're based in Canton, and I've been working with them for many years. I'm working with them in Bridgewater, where I'm also redeveloping a school building. I'm going to show you that project as well. Excuse me. And then Nixon Peabody is my attorney, and they're focused on affordable housing and historic preservation. They are a well-known firm. They're all across the country, and they do these types of mixed income transactions where affordable housing plays a large role. And affordable housing is a very complicated type of asset to develop. There's a lot of agreements at the state and federal level, and so there's a lot of documentation. So you need a really strong attorney to help kind of get through all of that information and paperwork. So they're a great outfit, and I've worked with them. A gentleman by the name of Paul Bouton is the partner that I work with there, and you may see him. And he also works with a gentleman by the name of Jeff Sachs, who does a lot of historic preservation for the firm. So they have a lot of various skill sets. So here's just a little bit, and I'll share this presentation with you once we're done, so you can take a look at it when we're done. And I'll also share my RFP response with you if you haven't already seen that. But this is just a little bit about me, a little bit about Janice from Icon, who's the architect, and then a little bit about Doug, the historic preservation consultant at Epsilon. And so now I want to just walk you through a couple of similar type projects. This is a project that I'm currently working on in Bridgewater. I started in 2017 on the permitting for this project. And I worked with the CPC there to help raise the 26.8 million for this project. And we're just going through the final throes of getting all of the credits and subsidy resources from the state. McElwain is 16 units in the McElwain School, which you see here as the historic building. In the back, there's a 38 unit new construction passive house building, so it's very energy efficient. And then there's a 3-family home, which you can kind of see in the back foreground there with the green windows, it looks like. And that's a 3-family home that I'm going to also historically rehabilitate using the tax credit. So all of these projects are going to be to the Secretary of the Interior standard as it relates to the historic tax credit. And there's very strict requirements when you redevelop these buildings, so they look exactly as they did when they were first constructed. That's part of the credit. So 57 units, 5 of which are market rate. I've also proposed some market rate units here at the Baldwinville School. But this development has approximately 5 market rate units, and then the rest are tax credit units. And those are available for folks making up to 60% of the area median income. And that starts at about $42,000 in Bridgewater. So this is a great redevelopment opportunity. We hope to break ground in the spring, this coming spring, second quarter. And we're just kind of finalizing all of the pieces of this now, so we can get in the ground and start the project. This next project is another historic rehab that I'm doing in concert with the Boston Housing Authority. And you can see here this old brownstone in the south end. I'm going to turn that into 5 units of mixed income housing up to 80% of the area median income. And I'm working with the Housing Authority there, and this has just gone in for its first round of historic tax credits. It's in the Worcester Square Historic District in the South End. And it's going to provide, housing for folks that live and work in Boston and at the medical center and the surrounding area, at affordable rents. And the incomes of folks here are between $55,000 and $60,000. So school teachers, nurses, entry-level police, all those types of occupations, medical workers, et cetera. And this is just in the permitting process as well. And then I show you this project just to give you a sense of, the breadth of types of projects I've undertaken. And I did this one in Harlem, New York. It's not anything like Templeton, but it is a very historic, it was a set of 22 individual 5-story walk-up row houses. And working with the National Park Service, we conjoined those into an elevator building on both sides of the street that accommodates 283 units. So quite a big project, but you could see the attention to detail that was taken in the renovation of the facade. If I showed you the before picture, you would, this was the worst block left in Harlem. So it was nice to turn it around, and it's a beautiful project. And then I offer some more local flavor and experience that Icon has undertaken. And some of these communities are further afield, but these are all, Massachusetts-based school rehabs that ICON has done. And so they really know what they're doing, and they're going to assist us here in Baldwinville with rehabbing the school. And then here's also some experience from Epsilon to show you the types of projects that they've done in their portfolio. So a lot of different types of projects, but all historic renovations, and all parts and pieces that come together that will help kind of drive what we're trying to do in your community. So here is the site plan I'm proposing for Baldwinville. So similar to Bridgewater, we'll do the 16 units, we're 50 units total, 16 of which will be in the old school building. I'm going to show you some floor plans in a minute. And then the balance will be in a 3-story new construction building at the back of the site. And it sits nicely, just up from the river. It's a beautiful location. It's a great neighborhood. And the idea was to do something that was contextual to the neighborhood, and we'll work on the architecture and make sure, it sits well with the neighbors. But, a new building to accommodate a total of 50 units. And I need that kind of scale to make the financing work here. So the 16 here, and then the additional unit, the 34 in the back, gets us to that 50. And they're a mix of 1s, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. And then we have, approximately 1.5 parking spaces per unit, actually a little bit more. Because I know that, everybody in this community has a car and they'll have visitors. So we wanted to try and accommodate parking the best we could. So we're showing a couple of parking areas to accommodate the residential. And then back behind it, some open space, outdoor seating, amenities, a small park, and a little playground is currently envisioned, but that could change based on input from the community. And then, site improvements generally along School Street and the associated neighborhood. So it's roughly 3 acres in total. Here are the floor plans that I mentioned. So here's the school, the first floor. You come in here, we're thinking the elevator would be here. This project will allow the school to become accessible, handicap accessible, and up to current code as it relates to the circulation and the units. And it's a mix of 1s, 2s, and I think there's 1 3-bedroom planned for the school, or actually a few for that matter. And then the balance of the units will be in the abutting building. Here's the unit mix for you guys to see. So 1s, 2s, and a couple of 3s in the Baldwinville, and then 34 units in the new construction behind it. And, this is a rendering of what it might look like, and take it with a grain of salt. It was done using the Google view. But what we tried to present here was we will, keep the integrity and the beauty of the original school here. Brand new windows, all new systems within the building, code upgrades, fire suppression system that's already in there will be upgraded. So all of those things will happen to the school. The grounds will be redone. And then in the back, a new building, that will work with the community to figure out what the right look and feel is, but that's set back from the street, and it doesn't interfere with the historic integrity of the existing school building. It's a separate vision. And that's what National Parks likes to see when they look at these projects. They don't want the 2 buildings to be connected. They want them to be separate so we can preserve the historic integrity of the school. And I'm sure you all know this because you've been doing this for a while. So that's kind of the vision. And then I just wanted to walk through 3 more slides of kind of just some bullet points that kind of communicate how this partnership would work. So, you know, this isn't just I'm buying the school building from the town. This is I need to work with the community in the town to make sure that this is something everybody wants. And through a public-private partnership, essentially, is what we've created or we'd like to create here. You know, we're asking for resources from the CPC. And I know that's been something that's come up in conversations, and I want to talk about it in detail this evening. But in order to facilitate this project, that resource is much needed. So you essentially become a lender to the project like you do. But for that, you know, you are able to unlock additional resources that can be used through and for the town. We're also paying purchase price to the town for the building. And then other fees and ongoing revenue, because this building never produced any taxes because it was a municipal building. So with repurposing it for residential, you'll now see tax revenue as a result. So that equates to excise taxes, other fees, and then regular, you know, property taxes, real estate taxes. And I projected that to be about 100,000 a year in annual revenue to the town. The open space will be accessible. The community room will be available for public use upon reservation. That's how I'm envisioning that working. I'll be the long-term owner, as I described, for a minimum of 15 years, but quite frankly, all of the subsidy resources at the state level require affordability in perpetuity now. So it will be a lot longer than that. And, you know, I want to, like I said, become part of the community. So participate in various events. And when we get back to normal after this COVID thing, you know, be there to support the good things happening in Templeton. And then lastly, and I think this is where you guys come in to the picture in a large way. Your mission as the CPC, as you know, is these three elements, you know, historic preservation, preservation of open space, and creation of affordable housing. And this project will check all three of those boxes for the CPC because you'll be putting the money to work. You're preserving the historic building, which is in itself a heavy lift, and would be great for the community to keep this asset, you know, in its historic form. We're creating open space, and so that open space will be for the use of the community and the public. You know, the playground isn't going to be just for the residents of Baldwinville School. It's going to be for the neighborhood. And as well as the open space, the benches and things that we'll put in. And then, and the community room for that matter will be available upon reservation. And then the affordable housing component. So, you know, creating, you know, 45 units, tax credit units at 60% of AMI or up to 60% of AMI is a significant number of affordable units. And I should say, because this is a rental project and we've thrown out the idea of using Chapter 40B as the permitting vehicle, that will allow you to put all 50 units on the subsidized housing inventory for the community. So you can help to get to your 10% goal. I believe you're relatively close, but you're not quite there yet. So, you know, in a nutshell, that's the project. I'll stop there. I can stop sharing my screen and put it back up if anybody has any questions, specific questions. But you know, I'm here tonight to just get some feedback from you guys, but also let you know that, you know, I did make a request for resources on the order of about $1.1 million. And I fully intend to submit an application to the CPC for those resources. But this project cannot move forward unless those resources are available. And so that's why, you know, I'm here tonight to talk about that and also, you know, answer any questions that you might have.
Well, maybe we could just start with that request because you had indicated that the town would be a lender and you're seeking these funds from CPA, does that mean that the CPA funds would be a loan?
So for these types of projects, all resources are structured as a loan. They have to be. There's tax implications if they are not loans to the project. I did put into my proposal, and I am open to structuring it so that if there's available cash flow, after operating expenses and debt service for the other loans, some portion of the CPC resources could be repaid over time. That is definitely a possibility, and something we could figure out. I'd also say, the town is seeing tax revenue that they've never seen before as a result of the project, and they also are getting a purchase price as a result of the project of $500,000.
Right, and is there language such that purchase price then would be converted to CPA funds, or would that go to the general fund?
I don't know the answer to that. I would ask Adam to speak to that, or Carter for that matter.
Yeah, on that, we haven't really discussed that in our office on where those funds are necessarily going to go at this point, because the MPZ needs to go through the CPC committee first and get that commitment. And also we've been kicking back and forth some drafts, so we're still in the early stages of this since we went through the procurement process, and Mr. Zoller and MPZ development were picked, designated, and awarded so far in this process.
Sure, so that's fine. I mean, we know that this is a process and we're just scratching the surface right now. Indicating that this is a loan is not, but it may be paid back. I mean, we know how bookwork works, and profits, or costs can be, it seems like it's not a loan.
So just let me speak to that for 1 minute. So in Bridgewater, the contribution on behalf of the community CPA was $1.3 million. When we do these projects, when we apply for the state resources and the federal resources, they look to the local community to make a contribution. And so there's a lot of ways that can be done. One is through land. Another is through the CPC resources, CPA. Home funds are also available, and CDBG resources sometimes are available. But when I make the case that this is a good project and we try and raise the additional resources, the state is going to say, okay, that's great, but what is the community's contribution? And it oftentimes comes in the form of CPA and land. So those are things that need to happen in order to leverage the rest of the resources. So it is a big request. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But it's going to go toward all the things that the CPC is trying to do. It's your mission, so to speak. And then it leverages. This is a $20 million project, so that contribution is leveraging all of these other resources. So effectively, the CPC and the CPA resources are making the project happen in that respect. So that's why they're so critical.
Yeah, we are a small town, of course, and we have been very conservative with our accrual of CPA funds, because that's the intent of the people to not. And so it does reflect a huge component of our existing balance. We know this is an ongoing revenue stream that the town has, but one question that I would have is how does this address a needs analysis for this number of units within the community?
Yeah, so in my initial research, looking at the community, there is a lot of for sale homes, single family homes in Templeton. And so there is a need for rental units in the community for folks that may want to downsize from a home that they don't need all of anymore. It's an opportunity for seniors who want to age in place and stay in their community to downsize to a smaller apartment. It looks, from what I've read and seen, that there isn't a whole lot of rental stock, and so this is filling that void. And it's also available for folks that work in the community, work close by and need a place that they can rent. And so this is an option for those folks as well.
And so you had indicated, I'm sorry if does anybody else wants to jump in?
Actually, John,
Yeah.
I would like to ask how this is going to affect our money that we have for, say, the fire station and also Gilman Waite, money that we have already promised, or that we're working to get those completed.
Well, so roughly at 1.3 million, we have approximate balance. The last I had gotten the report of 1.8 million. So this would represent, 1.3 out of 1.8. We generate approximately $200,000 per year going forward. So it would take 2/3 of our current balance. And
1.1, John, 1.1 million was the request.
1.1, I'm sorry.
No problem.
So, 11/18 or thereabouts. So, 50 to 55% of what we have currently. Obviously, we're continuing. I mean, you can see around town, there is a lot of new growth. We don't know, what the taxes will be going forward, but obviously, we have this ongoing income stream. So it is a big chunk of money. We would only vote for something. We do have the ability to borrow against future earnings, but nobody has ever indicated that that's something that they would support that I've spoken to. That doesn't mean we couldn't discuss it, but I think the community outreach of this is going to be very significant, both across the town, really identifying what is the need in terms of numbers. And what would the 60% income rate be for Templeton that would be qualifying for this apartment?
Yeah, it's about 35,000. Hold on, I can pull it up for you specifically. I think it was also in my RFP response, but let me tell you.
Yeah, and I know that's data that's out there. I know also that you must have, the impact upon the schools and then the impact upon the sewer system are two other things that we would obviously need to discuss in terms of what their current capacity is and what this might add to the burden of
Yep.
Will this be for everyone, or will this be for senior citizens? Or will it be a percentage for senior citizens?
So this is family housing. This is under the definition of what is family housing for the Commonwealth. It will be, so just to answer John's initial question, a person making 60% of the Worcester County AMI that's applicable to Templeton is $37,260. That's one person. And for two people, it's $42,600. And it equates to a rent for a one-bedroom unit of just under $1,000. So that's the rental rate for a fixed income unit. This redevelopment will have market rate units as well. So units that you won't have to apply for, so to speak. units that will, be available to anybody who has the income to afford the rent. So, you don't have to fill out paperwork. You don't have to go through a process. So that's why it's called a mixed income community. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And so, like I said, 4 of the units will be market rate. So it's housing that's available to everybody. There's no restriction for seniors.
And who's responsible for doing the determination of income and all that?
So,
Is that the owner?
So the management company has very strict guidelines they have to follow per the state. There's a lottery system that's set up at the initial lease up, and income is verified on an annual basis in accordance with Section 42 of the tax code, which is basically the tax credit program. So there are very strict requirements around that. And you have to have a certified property manager that can do that. And Trinity Management is that type of manager.
So getting back to the sewer system, burden, entrance fees, et cetera, plus the school, have you got those numbers?
Sure. So as it relates to school age children, and I talked about this when I interviewed with the committee, the selection committee, which Dennis was part of. There's a study that MAPC recently issued about the actual effect of additional households to the school population. And so I could send you that study, but essentially what it says is it takes a lot more units to actually add additional children to the school system. I don't know exactly, what this will look like, because we can't determine that until, it's getting leased. But the effect on the public school system is a lot less significant than one might think from a property such as this one. And this has approximately right now 16 one-bedroom units. So that's a good portion of the overall unit mix that are smaller units. But as a family housing development, it does have to meet certain requirements as it relates to the number of 2 bedrooms, the number of 3 bedrooms. It has to have a minimum of 10% 3 bedrooms. So those are all things. And then those are all things that relate to the school system. And I'm happy to share that information from MAPC. Obviously, we do a deeper dive on that, as we get into a community process. And then as it relates to the sewer system and capacity, this project will pay fees to connect to the existing infrastructure. And then, as a result of the taxes that it will pay, that will help to support the capacity requirements. I do believe that it's already on public sewer. And I will say that its use as a school its demand from the system, I should say, as a school is probably much greater than the residential use will be, given the number of occupants of the school and then the number of bathrooms, utilized by the school age children. So.
Okay.
Hey,
So what-
I have a question. The town has already lost a number of its affordable housing units because they've not had the funds to be able to purchase them as part of the first option. If these units change ownership, is there a chance that the status of the unit will change?
No. So these units will be made affordable in perpetuity per the deed restriction that will be executed at the
That will be
closing.
permanent status. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And that deed restriction limits the the rental rate as to some percentage of the 60% median? That's why you came up with that $1,000?
That's correct. And those are HUD, that's HUD data that informs those rents and incomes. As a result of COVID-19, they will drop, this coming 2021. And so the CPC will also have a deed restriction associated with this for the CPA funds I believe that's at 80% of the area median income, for a number of the units. Because one of your missions is to create affordable housing, and that's what I believe the Commonwealth set as the parameter. But there will be more affordability built into the tax credit units at 60% of the area median income.
So what's the timing in the process to go forward and to kind of get the impact, let the people know what's being proposed?
So as Adam described, I'm currently working with the town, with Adam and Carter and their legal counsel to craft a development agreement. Developer designation agreement is what it's called. And that will be presented to the Board of Selectmen or Select Board. You guys renamed your Select Board, I think.
I believe right now they're still listed. They're still Board of Selectmen. I don't think the AG approved the bylaw yet.
I see. So they have to approve the agreement, but they have approved the disposition, and they did vote to approve my proposal or accept my proposal. And so the next steps are getting through that, and I think we'd like to do that hopefully this month. And then I'll enter into a due diligence period where I will investigate the site and the building to make sure that there's no fatal flaws. I'll do an environmental analysis. I'll do a survey. I'll look at the title work. I'll understand, concerns, local concerns, neighborhood concerns. So I'll have a community meeting. Hopefully we can do it, in person, but Zoom may have to suffice, or maybe we can figure out a socially distanced way to have a meeting. I don't know. But I did hear from some of the neighbors through the selection process. So that due diligence period will be about 90 days. And then I will do what I need to do as it relates to the historic tax credit application and, confirming that this is on the National Register, which I believe it is. And then I would submit an application to you as the CPC, and I would need you to vote, that you would want this project. And then it's my understanding that we would have to then take that to town meeting and get the town to approve. So I'd like all of that to happen within the course of, the balance of the year, if possible, and be ready for the fall town meeting is the goal. So it's a lot.
Yes. I mean, Adam, has the town fall meeting date been targeted as yet? Is it too early?
Carter's looking at early November for the fall town meeting. I don't remember the specific date. He
Yeah, no, I
mentioned
just
it.
looking for a ballpark, because other than that, it would be May for the annual.
So maybe it's the annual, given all that's got to happen, but that would be the time frame. But if you guys as the CPC don't want this project, then I don't want to do it. I feel like this is a community based project, that it needs the CPC to offer resources to make it a possibility. So that's one of the things I put into my proposal, and I'm really excited about the opportunity. I think it would be great, but I can't do it without the CPC. So that's kind of a gateway issue for me.
I think the final decision for that would probably have to be made at town meeting with the town approving the appropriation.
Yeah, but I'm gonna submit an application to you all and,
Right.
yeah, you would have to review it and say you think this is a good idea.
That's right. It doesn't go to the town meeting unless we approve it.
Right,
correct.
correct.
And so I know that you've indicated that it was the, the sweet spot of the 50 units, given your financing, et cetera. And, Templeton with population 9,000 people, 50 more units in a condensed neighborhood. This isn't Fitchburg or Worcester or Boston. It seems like a big increase, we've never done anything on this scale. And so we're gonna have to have a lot of public input, and we know that the process requires us to reach out, and that you're never gonna have 100% buy-in on anything. So I just wanna let you know that we have to do our due diligence to make sure, that this is a good fit for the town. And I know the selectmen have had a chance to review it, and Dennis, as our representative, has been part of the discussions for the reuse of the school building. And, the fact that it would be an ADA compliant building within, a neighborhood that does have some services available in terms of, there's at least some, commercial activity nearby. There's a lot of reasons why the town should consider going forward, but we're just early in our process of discussing this and trying to figure out, where everybody stands on it.
And I totally appreciate that, John. And again, I'm new and, I made a proposal and I think it's a really good proposal, but, I want to hear you tell me you also think it's a good proposal. And if you want to change it, I want to hear that as well. And I'll be honest.
If I could just jump in for a second here.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, would you mind if I speak really
Sure.
quick? No, I just wanted to jump in. I think it's important to know, as you know, I was involved with this proposal the first time we went out to the RFP, and then the second time where the board designated MPC development and Matt. I can say so far in this process, I haven't received any apprehension where, at least with the first proposal being One Exchange Street 1620, there was some concern from neighbors about the cultivation facility and some apprehension about the smell and other issues coming along with the cultivation. So far in this process, and I think Matt made it clear that he is going to be involved with the community, having another meeting with the community, and he certainly wants to have the input and work with everybody involved. I can tell you our office has been working with them, and Matt's always available to us, so he's nothing more than a phone call away if you have a concern, or if you want just send him an email. But I think that's one thing I wanted to say. So far, our office has not received any negative remarks about the MPC development. If anything, so far what we've received is positive remarks on this project, because we're talking about approximately $20 million investment in our community, and yes, it does come with some approximately $1.2 million of CPC commitment. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that has to be voted on at town meeting. Granted, the CPC would have to, move it forward, but the town meeting decides that. And I just wanted to provide a little bit more from our end and the information that we've heard from the community so far. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. So perhaps, I know we're running a little long here, and so I'd like to reach out to all of the other committee members. I've kind of hung up the voice here. Who might want to chime in?
John,
Yep, Mike.
Matthew, I'm on the historical commission here in town. I think you're going to find that the Baldwinville Elementary School is not in the Baldwinville Village Historic District, nor is it a individually historically registered building. It's the first building in Baldwinville Center is just on the other side of the bridge, the 2-bay fire station. And then as you continue up Elm Street, take a left onto Baldwinville Road. There are some colonials there. I think you go like maybe 5 or 6 houses up that road. But there are no buildings in that area that are on the historical register. And to the best of my knowledge, and I just walked the entire district last June, I think it was, not June 2020, but June 2019. It is not one of the ones that's on the survey. That's not to say that I'm not all in favor of it. I think it'd be a great reuse for the building. I would hate to see the building fall into disuse and disrepair. I mean, I think it's something we should investigate fully. And I think you will get quite a bit of support in the town to be able to save that building. But I just think that's what you're going to find when you go looking.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so it might save you a little time. I don't even know, we had a college professor, Thomas Malloy. He was a history professor. He went through the entire town one summer and inventoried all the historic buildings. And I don't even recollect there being a sheet on that building. And I think it's strictly because it's not that old a building compared to many in the town. And as I'm sure you're aware, the federal government and the state government have a cutoff year as far as what qualifies as historic building. So it didn't fall within that range. But I will do this. I'll pull out the forms for Baldwinville and go through them and make sure I'm not misspeaking. And if there is a form, I'll get it to you maybe through Mr. Henshaw.
Great. Yeah, I just to speak to that, a couple of points you made, and thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. Because there is a historic district adjacent, it does make it a little bit easier to kind of get it on the register vis-a-vis that district. And a building like this, the Park Service would look fondly upon an application, and that would be part of my overall due diligence and also my efforts as it relates to the investment here. I will also say in Bridgewater, I just want to bring this up, and the folks in Bridgewater are available. I can connect you to the town manager and the CPC there, who we worked with extensively, and they ultimately like the project. They never, like they wanted to see their historic building preserved. But that building sat vacant for 20 years. And so it's fallen into disrepair. And so Templeton has a real opportunity here to seize this building while it's still in really great shape. It needs work, no doubt, but it's a beautiful building. So, I would just add that to your comments. So thank you very much.
I think Joanne wants to say something.
Do you think we're rushing this too much?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I mean, I think it's going to take a whole lot more investigating and really checking it out. That school is not in good condition. And it certainly wasn't when our kids were there either. Yeah.
Look,
so I think you've got to open your eyes and look a little closer. If you want to push this as a good building, it's not.
Can I ask you what makes it a bad building? I haven't heard that perspective.
Well, they haven't done any repairs or anything else on it for years. It's just, it wasn't suitable for kids in the end. And I don't think it's suitable for having families live there either, yet. There may be other things that need to be done first. I think we're just rushing everything too much.
Well, like I said in Bridgewater, that RFP process I submitted in September of 2017. And I worked with the community for many years. And I'm now at the point where I'm about to start the reconstruction of the project. That project, that rehab of that school building is roughly a $7 million investment. I'm currently targeting this school at about, when it's all said and done, $8.1 million of investment. That's what I'm going to put into that school building to make it habitable, to clean it, to replace all of the windows, to abate it of any asbestos or hazardous materials that are inside it, clean the brick, clean all of the interior spaces, make them into apartments, make sure the common spaces are preserved. It has a great gymnasium that could make for a really neat community space. And so that's exciting for me. I think, look, these projects take a lot of love and thought to make them stand out and also make them give back. And so, I'm a real estate developer, and that's what I do. I basically aggregate all of the resources and bring together the professionals to make these things possible. And so that's what I'm proposing here for the community. And that's why I'm asking for your input and your help. But I guarantee that the building will be, brand new in that all of the systems will be updated. But I hear you. This is not going to be tomorrow that you would vote on this. This is going to be a constant, ongoing conversation, and your input is really important. I don't want to say that, this is what it is. So it's not. This is the start of the conversation.
I have to say that when we toured the building, I think it's probably a good year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, it looked like the building was physically a good structure. There may have been a lot of shortcomings as far as it being used as a school to meet the needs of young children and so on. But I think the changes that you're considering, like changing the heating systems and things of that nature, and the windows and things of that nature, will certainly improve the quality of the building. It's going to be a different usage, and I think that would have to be considered.
I have a few concerns. Is the need that great in the area for this this project? And I'm all for preserving the elementary school, but it almost, to me, it's a small building. There's only going to be 16 units, and then there's going to be a brand new building behind it. So, oh no.
Okay.
So it's almost like, okay, well, we'll say this building historically, but we have to put a brand new building behind it. That's already a little bit of a congested neighborhood there. My other concern is using that much of the CPC money towards just this one project if the need is not that great. Which, this is a very small town. Gardner is our bigger city. They all, they have plenty of housing there for certain. So I'm not so sure I'm convinced that the need is that great in this area.
No. Plus, I think it's moving too fast.
Could I jump in? Could I jump in here? Adam Lamontagne. when I said this is a $20 million project, Mr. Zoller, could you give the breakdown? I noticed you said $8.1 million you're looking at putting into the old Baldwinville Elementary School site. Just so people in town have an idea of the breakdown of the investment you're looking at putting into their community. I really want to stay focused on the positives of this project, because I want people to be cognizant of the fact that this project is vital. Otherwise, we have a vacant building there, and vacant buildings could attract problems. You see it so often where buildings are sitting there vacant and people get in there. We already had one little minor case of vandalism where if you drive by there, the DPW had to board it up, the lower windows. And the longer it sits vacant, the town's got to cover everything else, all the expenses that are associated with it. We have to really think of everything in regard to this project. Now, Matt, could you give a little bit of a breakdown on what you're looking on doing with the existing building? Sure. And the building in the back, just so people know the commitment you're willing to bring in MPZ development to Templeton?
Sure. So, yeah, the overall investment that I've essentially budgeted for at this point is about 20 million. And that's without having a detailed due diligence exercise, to understand all of the constraints and the condition of the building. But that is a significant investment. And I know from having done these historic rehabs in the past, they're traditionally more expensive than a new construction. And so for the new construction building, for the rehab, it's about 8.1 million. And then for the new construction, it's about 11.9 million to build a new building at the back of the site. And those numbers also include all of the site improvements to the parking, to the road, to School Street, looking at the traffic circulation there. I know it's a one-way road. How do we remedy that? Taking all of these things into consideration, the landscaping, keeping the existing trees that are in good shape, figuring out what's happening on lot, I think it's 401, which is the long former railroad easement that runs behind the school building, and really understanding, what the site is all about. But yes, it's a minimum of a $20 million investment. And so, in Bridgewater, we're getting closer to having a full set of plans and a fully engineered project. And that project's, around 26 million, and it's about the same size site. It's got a couple different components to this site. There's an old historic home on it that I mentioned that we're also saving. So a few more elements, but, it will be a process to kind of unpack the true costs. But right now it is a $20 million investment at a minimum.
Well, I want to thank you for that. And with that, I just wanted to highlight that and bring that forward so people have an idea of the ultimate breakdown and the investment you're willing to bring to Templeton. I truly believe that.
There's nowhere near Templeton financially or anything.
So just, I want to address the housing concern as well. There is a housing crisis in the Commonwealth. There's not enough housing of any type, and it may not just be Templeton, or maybe Templeton doesn't have a problem, they don't think, but I think if you look at the larger community, we need more housing in Massachusetts, and we're driving people away that might want to live here. And, that's, not something we want to be doing. I believe I'm a strong advocate for housing generally, and I'm a very strong advocate for affordable housing. And so I think you know, we need that type of housing across the Commonwealth.
Okay, well, thank you very much. This has been a great presentation. I think it's a great first step to get the information out there. I mean, certainly Templeton is in a part of the state that we may not have all these high-paying jobs, but we have access to Route 2, and there's a demand for commuter housing. So that being said, I know we've got to have some discussions on our own. I'm glad that you've offered to share some more information with us. And I think we should probably just wrap it up right now for this first foray and continue the discussion going forward. Unless there's anybody that has other pressing questions or something they'd like to bring up. I think we've gotten a great first step, and I think this could be a great project, but we've got a few questions that we really need to dig into before we can, you know, stick our neck out there and support this. And I do want to hear more community outreach. I know it's hard to do in a COVID time, just to see what kind of feedback there will be, you know, traffic issues, population, school, et cetera, but, you know, let's wrap this up and thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to continuing the discussion.
Thank you all. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I think with that, we don't have any other business to attend to for the committee. We will have our next meeting, regular scheduled meeting on the second Thursday of September at 6:30, same time, I guess probably still Zoom. We can call early meetings if we need to, but you know, that's our schedule right now. We will hope to hear more from the Gilman Waite project in terms of getting that ready for a fall town meeting, whether that's going to be the case or not. We voted
I hope so.
discussing that. I'll reach out to Scott Dill and ask him and Bob to come to our September meeting to kind of give us a check-in with him. Is there anything else anybody would like to bring up or discuss while we're here now?
Next meeting will be September 10th.
September 10th. Thank you, Dennis.
Are they always at 6:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
I just want to put it on my calendar.
Okay, yeah, we can't do earlier. We could slide to 7, but not if I'm going to sit out on my patio.
Yeah, the mosquitoes come out.
Yeah.
I just have a question for anybody going through Baldwinville, Otter River area today. The river really smelled today. It had that paper mill sludge smell today. Anybody else notice that today?
No, wasn't there. Never go through Baldwinville.
Oh, Baldwinville, very strong, very strong.
Well, we certainly know
Oh,
when
okay.
we're out and the water flow is low, so
Well, I thought maybe that's what it was, but it was pretty strong today.
yeah. Well, I would ask first at the 2 wastewater treatment plants we have on the river, Gardner and Templeton, they might, you know, because they contribute the full flow of the river when it's low, basically. Not that they're not compliant with regulation, but, you know, we don't have, and Siemens that has a better treatment plant than everybody else.
Yes, I realize they do. I didn't know if there was anybody had noticed it or had heard there was some kind of spill or something. Just curious, because I haven't smelled that bad for a very long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I wasn't there.
So don't go sniffing down in Baldwinville.
Well, I'm sure there's some Facebook posting on that somewhere. If you find anything, let us know.
Okay, we'll go.
Okay, well, I guess with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
So moved by Joy,
Second.
seconded by Carrie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you electronically, if not before.
All righty.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, John.
And thanks
Sounds good.
to TV.
Thank you.